Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to this episode of 21st Century Morocco podcast, where we try to have an idea about the future of Morocco in different fields. And today's topic is the shift to English in Morocco. And our guest is Tony Reilly, the director of the British Council. Thank you, Tony, for accepting our invitation.
Delighted to join you, and sorry it's taken so long for us all to get together. You asked me when we were setting this up a little bit about the Shift to English survey. So let me just sort of confirm, first of all, that the British Council decided to commission an independent survey conducted by, an international market research agency on what we call the Shift to English. It was a survey that interviewed 1,200 young Moroccans across all the major urban areas of Morocco, and tried to understand attitudes towards English and any shifts or perceived shifts in preferences towards learning English or the use of English as a foreign language in Morocco. High-level summary, overwhelmingly young people are in favor of learning English. As one of the 1,200 respondents said, English is the future. 85% felt that the use of English is going to increase 60% significantly over the next decade. 83% of respondents said English will give them as individuals, as young people, access to high quality, internationally recognized education. They felt that it would be good for them and good for the country. It will enhance tourism. It would help them as individuals live, work, and study overseas if they wished. And a large number, 79%, said that they believe that if English did become Morocco's primary foreign language, it would help the country's ambitions to be an international business hub, to be the gateway to Africa, etc. Those were the high-level findings, that there is a shift to English and young people recognize its importance, both for themselves as well as their country. Great.
Hi, Gary. How is it going?
It's going very well. It's going very well. My first question is that because obviously we read the report, and in the report it said that 74% of young people, I think it was, think that English should be the dominant second language now. So why do you think it is that French is still the dominant foreign language in Morocco?
Lies and damn statistics. I don't think they said it should be the dominant language now. I think they said that they felt within around 5 years it could become Morocco's first foreign language. But to answer your question, which is valid, the answer probably. I mean, French is embedded in Morocco's history and culture, and there's a legacy. There are huge numbers of French schools in Morocco. 30,000 Moroccans study at French universities each year, French, and we've never said this, is not something that is going to be erased from Morocco's identity, its linguistic landscape, history, and culture.
I appreciate what you're saying about how French is pretty much ingrained into the Moroccan culture, but equally we have to balance that with young people's it is to English. So what do you think the British Council can and even perhaps should do to encourage the growth of English as the second language, and what ways can they influence those people with power in Morocco to to think differently about English and French.
And I have, excuse me, Tony, I have a similar question you might want to ask to answer both questions at the same time. There are a lot of online platforms right now that are teaching English, and Moroccans are interested in them, as your report shows. And so what is the British Council willing to do in order to share, you know, your expertise as an international institution that teaches English all over the world? What are you willing to do in order to share your knowledge and expertise with these platforms?
Yeah, let me try and answer both of those. I think we're all pushing on an open door. It doesn't require a lot of pressure. Yes, there are some small lobbies of resistance to this. But generally, we work incredibly closely with the Ministry of Education. They are a very strong partner of ours. I was with them this week discussing 2 launches that we're doing in partnership with Minister Amzazi and his senior team, the Secretary General, the Director of Curriculum, etc. And those 2 launches, and the reason I'm sharing this is not to, you know, blow our trumpet at the British Council, but just to answer your question. The first is we have been working with the ministry to develop something called an English digital catalogue. And this is for years 9, 10, 11, and 12. And it is a catalogue that maps the British Council's online resources, Learn English Teens, to the syllabus and textbooks that are used by English teachers in national schools here, and a training program that has introduced those teachers to the richness of using digital resources to supplement the learning. So we've produced these 4 catalogues with QR codes and train the teachers in how to benefit from them and supplement their English classes, and encourage their learners and the teachers to use the QR codes to directly access supplementary digital learning resources to enhance the teaching and learning of English. The ministry are delighted with that, absolutely delighted, because to answer Gary's question and to reinforce my sense that we're pushing on an open door here, the ministry want to improve the teaching and learning of English because they too recognise the importance of English for Morocco and English as a global language. So you know, and we're trying in all sorts of ways to increase access to English medium resources. So you'll be familiar, Ezzoubeir and Gari, with the British Council Digital Library. You know, we've signed up 4,000 Moroccans free who can access thousands of ebooks, newspapers, journals, film, music documentaries, and a whole range of podcasts, etc., all in English medium. We've done that with the Ministry of Education. We focused particularly on public universities where we know students want access to English medium resources. So those are some of the things we're doing. We're also, in terms of our own English teaching work, as you know, we have a teaching centre here in Morocco, started to innovate partly as a response to COVID, and offer our programs online. So there is a new flexible adult English learning course called My Class, which is entirely online. So young Moroccans can sign up, flexibly learn English when and where they want, and do that entirely online, but still interact with a teacher and with learners from across the country. So those are just some of the things that we're doing. But I don't think there's as much resistance as people imagine, Gary.
Okay, that's very good to know.
We don't need to convince people about the importance of English as a global language.
Yeah.
You know what, one of the things that, because I work with a lot of young people, particularly teenagers, and one of the things that I've noticed is a resentment to French, so promotion of English, not just love of English, but a resentment. It isn't just with students who can speak English very well or go to these high-profile French schools. But, I live in Océan, so, people who work in shops who, speak some English, and they always want to speak English with me. And when I talk to them in English, there is this resentment, I feel, that they are learning French. And so there's almost as if French is this barrier that they have because they can't then get to English because they're learning French in school. Do you recognize that resentment? Is resentment a word for you?
Yeah, resentment's a bit of a strong word, but the survey did pick up attitudinal differences to English, French, Arabic, etc. And it's back to history and culture, isn't it, Gary?
Definitely.
The sense of young people in this survey, and this isn't the British Council pronouncing, this is what young people were saying, as you said. Young people tend to feel that, and this is quite ironic, but I understand where it comes from, that English is more neutral than French. French has a certain baggage. It is more elitist. And people feel that English is more neutral here in Morocco and is definitely the sort of language of opportunity. That's how they describe it. Now, I'm saying this with a little bit of a smile because I've worked in lots of Commonwealth countries for the British Council where it's the opposite and it's English that has the colonial baggage. And so, we shouldn't be too triumphalist about this. It's rooted in the place of French and the colonial legacy.
History, yeah.
But yes, you are right. There is a difference in how people respond to. English is also seen by young people as the language of popular culture. It's film and it's the lyrics of the songs that they listen to and the music that they enjoy. And that makes it also more attractive as a language. But really interesting question.
Right.
So we're pushing against an open door. We have a lot of young people who are wanting to learn the language. We're saying that people think that it will be the dominant second language in 10 years. What do you think will be the tipping point? Is it going to be the mass numbers of people on the street speaking English? Do you think there will be an event, something that finally tips it over so that English does become the official formal second language? Is it inevitable?
Tony, sorry.
Yeah.
And I have a question in that direction. You might as well want to answer them both. If Morocco or if the government decides that it wants to shift to English, or for any reason, probably for the event that Gary is talking about, what recommendations would you give to the government to go in this direction?
Okay. Let me try and answer both questions. So the first one is, I don't think there'll be a single tipping point, but I think that the demand for English, the recognition of its importance, alongside Morocco's other languages, will gradually grow. The number of British or English medium schools will increase. We will see more British universities coming here, and young people and parents will choose English medium education increasingly. So what we picked up in the Shift to English survey, plus my belief that this is recognized and accepted by the Ministry of Education and other bits of the sort of Moroccan authorities, means that gradually English will be accepted. Your question, Ezzoubeir, is a really important one. When we're talking about education, we're talking about two things. Is it English as a subject, so English taught in schools as a foreign language, or English as a medium of instruction, which is very different. That's teaching other subjects through English. And our advice to governments around the world, and we often get asked and involved in projects where we're supporting government's ambitions around the language of education is plan it, be strategic. It's not a light switch. You can't just say next year we're teaching maths and science in English and suddenly expect the curriculum to change, the teachers to be trained in sufficient numbers, the pedagogy to be appropriate. And some countries, often for political reasons, Rwanda is a good case in point, have made that shift. And although they haven't reversed it, they've suddenly realized the amount of support that's required to make a transition from one language of instruction to another. So our advice to the ministry, where, for example, at university level, they're very keen for all sorts of sound reasons to begin teaching STEM subjects in English, is plan it strategically, resource it appropriately, train your teachers, think about the curriculum and the course books and the materials that will be required to achieve that ambition. So, you know, it's their decision, it's their choice, but these are strategic choices and they need to be planned and thought through in great detail. Otherwise, the teaching and learning itself can become impaired, Gary. You know, if you're learning a science subject at university and your English is better than your lecturers, the teaching and learning process is going to be impaired. And that's not unusual, where countries have made a rapid shift and said, from next year, we're teaching this subject in English. Go on, go ahead.
I have a little bit of a follow-up question, Ezzoubeir, but I don't know if you've got another question that you want to ask. All I was going to then ask is that, are you then telling us, Tony, that this is what the Moroccan government are doing strategically? They are, perhaps unofficially, but strategically moving towards English?
Yeah, I think so. I think they absolutely are. There are political sensitivities in saying it in too outspoken a way, and I understand that. You know, there are complexities, but, you know, in line with the title of your podcast, they recognize in the 21st century that Morocco is really well placed with its rich multilingual traditions to add English. This is not a zero-sum language exercise of saying it's English instead of French. You know, the UN use 4 official languages, Arabic, the 6 actually, but 4 of them are widely spoken in Morocco: Arabic, French, Spanish, and English, increasingly. And the Moroccan authorities recognize, with their international outlook, their gateway to Africa aspirations, that adding English is going to be hugely advantageous for the country's aspirations, as well as responding to what we tapped into in the Shift to English survey, the desire amongst young people to be given opportunities to improve their English.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because the next question is also related to this. Do you think that the shift to English in Morocco will help Morocco immediately increase the number of economic partners that it has?
Absolutely. I mean, many multinationals, as you both know, are looking at, if they haven't already, hubbing themselves in Morocco, not only because of what Morocco offers, but because of its access to particularly sub-Saharan Africa. And that's not just Francophone sub-Saharan Africa, that's also huge markets like Ghana and Nigeria, in East Africa, Kenya, where the language of business will be English. And to answer your question in a kind of, to sort of supplement that answer, one thing I often say is that a young Moroccan who has an aspiration to work for a French multinational in Paris, and that would be seen by some parents as a very successful career. So they study at a French school, they do very well, they go to a big French university, and then they get a job with a French multinational based, headquartered in Paris or somewhere. Guess what? That company will want them to speak English. that company will expect them to operate in English. And that's a really, really interesting example. Because I think, 70% of industries in non-English speaking environments require of their employees a working knowledge, an operational knowledge of English.
Yeah, true. In my experience, even, people come to us from companies, they operate only with Moroccans, and at a certain level, they're required to have a basis in English because, of course, they do research in English. Everything is in English, although they're not dealing directly with English partners, English-speaking partners. Gary, do you have a question?
Well, I do. I have one more question, but I'm not sure how relevant it is, because I was going to ask you, just suppose that the French government cling, is a bit of an emotive word, but remain as having French as the dominant second language in 10 years' time. And yet we will have all of these young people, these people who are teenagers now, who will be in their 20s and going into their 30s. So quite a substantial number of under 30-year-olds speaking English. Well, my question was going to be, what would happen if Morocco had French as its dominant language in 10 years' time? But I'm getting the feeling that what you're telling me is that won't happen. Am I right in thinking that, or is
none of us have a crystal ball, but let's see what happens. I think that Morocco will be well served by preserving its multilingual traditions in the 21st century, because we live in such an interconnected global world that having English alongside French and Arabic and Spanish is a massive national asset. And I think, if Morocco can juggle that and resource that and respond to, the need to improve levels of English and provide English medium resources, happy days. It's a great future that the country has in terms of its international outlook and aspirations. So listen, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk today.
Pleasure.
I do have to join another call now. But, the shift to English is available if anybody wants to kind of access it on the www.britishcouncil.ma website, together with lots of the sort of English resources that we've been talking about today. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Tony. Thanks, Gary.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to meet you, Gary. Thank you.
Yeah, and you, Tony, at last. Bye.
Bye.